I watched my husband pick up the pen in courtroom 4B of the Mecklenburg County Courthouse and sign away my entire life, slowly, deliberately, like he was savoring every stroke. He signed for the house, the 4-bedroom colonial in Myers Park that I found negotiated and furnished while he was out golfing with clients. He signed for the cars, both of them. He signed for Holloway Premier Construction, the company I'd kept alive with my own hands when it was bleeding money 5 years ago. And when he was done, he set the pen down, adjusted his Tom Ford tie, and looked straight at me. That smile, Lord, that smile. The kind that says, I just took everything and there's nothing you can do about it. My hands were folded in my lap, still, steady. Not because I wasn't feeling anything, because I'd spent 2 months preparing for this exact moment, and because I knew something that nobody else in that room knew. Not his lawyer, not the judge, not even my own mother. My name is Camille Renée Lawson. I'm 37, forensic accountant. The woman whose entire career is built on finding what people try to hide. And my husband, in his infinite arrogance, had just signed his name to every piece of evidence the FBI needed to put him in a federal prison. He thought he was taking my fortune. He was taking his sentence. Before we go any further, drop your city and what time it is right now in the comments. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Because what this man did to me and what I did back is a story you need to hear from the very beginning. Now let me take you back 12 years, back to when the numbers in my life all added up, back to before I learned that the man I loved was the biggest lie on my own balance sheet. I handed him the rope. I watched him measure it, cut it, and tie it around his own neck, and I didn't say a single word. I grew up in a small brick house on Beatties Ford Road in West Charlotte. The kind of neighborhood where everybody knew everybody, where Miss Johnson next door would holler at you for running too fast on the sidewalk, and where the smell of somebody's grandmother frying chicken could stop traffic on a Saturday afternoon. My parents split when I was 11. I remember the night like it was tattooed on my brain. Daddy packed 2 suitcases, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "I'll see you Friday, baby girl." He didn't come that Friday, or the next one, or the one after that. Mama fell apart slowly, then all at once. Lost her job at the hospital. Lost the house 6 months later. Lost herself somewhere between the bottom of a wine bottle and the couch she stopped getting up from. That's when Aunt Phyllis stepped in. My mother's older sister. 70 years old now, but back then she was in her late 40s, with a spine made of steel and a tongue that could cut you cleaner than a surgeon's blade. She drove down from Greensboro in her old Buick, packed me up, and took me home with her. Never asked for a thank you, never complained, just did what needed to be done. Aunt Phyllis taught me 3 things that shaped every decision I ever made. First, always have your own money, not shared money, not joint money, yours. Second, never let a man hold the pen to your story. And third, numbers don't lie. People do. I took that third one and built a whole career on it. Graduated summa cum laude from UNC Charlotte with a degree in accounting. Got my CPA, then my CFE certified fraud examiner. Landed a position at KPMG in their forensic accounting division, one of only 3 black women in the entire Charlotte office. For 4 years, I spent my days tracing money that people tried to hide. Shell companies, offshore accounts, cooked books. I found it all. I was good at it. Number 1, I was exceptional at it. If only I'd been half as good at reading the man who slept next to me every night. I met Derek Lamont Holloway at a Black Business Alliance networking event in uptown Charlotte on a warm Friday evening in September. I was 25. He was 29. Tall, 6 feet, 3 broad shoulders, smile that could light up a parking garage. He wore a navy blazer with a pocket square that matched his socks, and he was the only man in the room who asked me about my work before he asked for my number.
"Forensic accounting,"
he said, leaning against the bar with his bourbon.
"So you catch people who lie with money?"
"That's one way to put it," I said.
He grinned. "Remind me never to lie to you."
If I could go back to that moment, if I could grab that 25-year-old woman by the shoulders and shake her, but I can't. So I'll just keep telling you what happened. Derek was building Holloway Premier Construction from the ground up. 1 truck, 2 employees, and a dream he talked about like it was already real. He had this way of making you believe in things, in him, in the future, in the idea that 2 people could build something bigger than either of them alone. I fell in love with that vision before I fell in love with the man. Maybe that was my first mistake. We dated for 2 years. He met Aunt Phyllis, who studied him like a tax return for 6 straight hours over Sunday dinner, and said afterward,
"He's either the real thing or the best liar I've ever seen. Time will tell."
Time told Auntie. Time surely told. We married at a small ceremony in Greensboro, 62 guests. Aunt Phyllis walked me down the aisle because Daddy was somewhere in Florida and Mama was somewhere in a fog. I wore my grandmother's gold bracelet on my left wrist, the one Aunt Phyllis gave me the day I graduated college.
"This was your Grandma Opal's,"
she'd said, clasping it on my wrist.
"She wore it every single day of her life. It means you come from strong women. Don't you ever forget that."
I wore it to my wedding. I wore it to every important moment of my life. I wore it like armor. After the wedding, Derek asked me to leave KPMG and manage the finances for Holloway Construction full-time. He made it sound like a partnership.
You and me, Camille, we build this together, 50-50. I'm the muscle, you're the brain.
Looking back now, the signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see them, because seeing them would have meant that Aunt Phyllis's second lesson was already being broken. I was letting a man hold the pen, and I was too in love to notice he was writing me out of my own story. I said yes, left a 6-figure career at one of the biggest accounting firms in the world to manage the books for a construction company operating out of a rented office on South Boulevard. My colleagues at KPMG thought I'd lost my mind. My supervisor pulled me aside on my last day. "Camille, you're one of the sharpest forensic minds I've trained. Don't disappear into someone else's dream." I smiled and told her I wasn't disappearing. I was building something of my own. I was wrong. For the next 10 years, I poured everything into Holloway Construction. I built the accounting system from scratch, managed payroll taxes, vendor contracts, insurance claims, billing. I negotiated a line of credit with First National Bank when no other bank would touch us. I restructured the company's debt during the crash of 2019 when we nearly went under. 3 months of 18-hour days, 3 months of calling creditors, renegotiating terms, finding new contracts. I saved that company while Derek was having panic attacks in the parking lot. When we survived, Derek threw a dinner for the whole team, stood up with a glass of champagne and said,
I saved this company through grit, through determination, through my vision. Holloway Construction is alive because of me.
23 people clapped. I sat in the back of the room and said nothing. My best friend Nadia Okafor leaned over and whispered,
"Girl, are you serious right now? You're not going to say anything."
I shook my head. "It's fine, Nadia. We're a team. It doesn't matter who gets the credit."
Nadia looked at me with those sharp lawyer eyes. "It always matters who gets the credit, Camille. Always."
She was right, but I wasn't ready to hear it. Around that same time, Derek started meeting with a consultant I'd never heard of, a woman named Simone Baptiste. 30 years old marketing background hired to expand the company's brand presence. Derek said she came highly recommended. He didn't say by whom. I asked to sit in on their first meeting.
Derek waved me off. It's just branding stuff, Camille, not really your area.
Not really my area. I ran every single department of that company except the one he stood in front of at ribbon cuttings. But branding wasn't my area. I let it go. I told myself I was being sensitive. I told myself a secure wife doesn't question every new business relationship. I told myself Aunt Phyllis's voice in my head was just old-fashioned worry. But that night, lying in bed while Derek scrolled through his phone with the screen tilted away from me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, a whisper in my gut. The same whisper I got at KPMG when a balance sheet didn't add up. The same quiet alarm that said something is off here. Look closer. I didn't look closer. Not yet. And that delay cost me everything. For the first 10 years of our marriage, I would have told you Derek Holloway was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I would have believed it with every cell in my body. We had rituals, the kind that make a marriage feel like home. Every Sunday morning, we'd sit on the back porch of our house on Wyndham Drive in Myers Park with coffee and the newspaper. He'd read the sports section out loud because he knew it made me laugh how serious he got about the Panthers. I'd read him the business section because he'd never admit he didn't understand half the financial terminology. Marcus would come out in his pajamas, still half asleep, and curl up between us like a cat who'd found the warmest spot in the house. Those Sunday mornings, I hold on to them still. Not because I miss Derek, but because I miss the woman who believed they were real. Our 10th anniversary fell on a Saturday in June. Derek surprised me with dinner at Heirloom Restaurant in Uptown Charlotte. White tablecloth candles, a reservation he'd made 3 weeks in advance, which for Derek was the equivalent of planning a military operation. He wore the charcoal suit I'd picked out for him. I wore a green dress that Nadia had helped me choose because she said it brought out my eyes, and Nadia was never wrong about anything except her own love life. Derek reached across the table that night and took my hand, looked me dead in the eyes.
10 years, Camille, and I'd do it all again every single day.
I squeezed his hand and felt my chest fill with something warm and heavy and real. At least I thought it was real. Turns out it was just the last good memory I'd ever have with the man I married. But I didn't know that yet. I was still living in the before. The after was coming, and it was coming fast. 2 weeks after our anniversary dinner, Vanessa Holloway came to visit. Derek's mother, 63 years old, retired real estate broker, the kind of woman who could insult you so elegantly you'd thank her for it before you realized what happened. Vanessa had never liked me. She'd wanted Derek to marry Tiffany Ross, the daughter of a wealthy developer in Raleigh, who could have elevated the family brand. Instead, Derek married a girl raised by her aunt in Greensboro, whose mother couldn't hold down a job. Vanessa never said it out loud. She didn't need to. It lived in every tight smile, every backhanded compliment, every time she looked at me like I was a stain on her son's potential. That visit, she sat at my kitchen table, sipped the tea I made her, and said,
"You know, Camille Derek could have married anyone. The kind of women who were interested in him you wouldn't believe. Doctors, attorneys, women with real careers.
She paused, stirred her tea.
But he chose you. And I suppose that says something about his character. He's always had a soft spot for charity."
I smiled. I always smiled with Vanessa. I'd learned early in the marriage that fighting back only gave Derek a reason to say I was difficult and couldn't get along with his family. So I swallowed it. Every time. Every visit. Every holiday dinner where Vanessa would rearrange my table settings because they weren't quite right and correct my recipes because that's not how Derek likes his food. 12 years of swallowing. My jaw should have locked permanently. After Vanessa left, I noticed something. Small. Easy to miss. Derek had left his iPad on the kitchen counter and a notification popped up on the screen. A text from a number saved as SB Consulting.
"Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about it."
My stomach dropped. Not fell, dropped. Like an elevator with its cables cut. I stood there in my kitchen holding a dish towel and staring at that notification until the screen went dark. Last night, Derek had told me he was at a job site in Gastonia, reviewing progress on a commercial build. He'd come home at 11:30, showered immediately, and gone to bed without saying goodnight. I thought he was just tired. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about it. I picked up the iPad. My hands were trembling so bad the screen registered phantom touches. I tried his passcode. The old one. It didn't work. He'd changed it. When had he changed his passcode? We'd always known each other's codes. Every device, every account. It was something we'd agreed on early in the marriage. No secrets. Full transparency. That was the deal. The deal had apparently been amended without my knowledge. I put the iPad down, took 3 deep breaths, ran through every logical explanation I could construct. SB Consulting. Maybe it was Simone Baptiste. Maybe last night was perfect referred to a successful meeting. Maybe Can't Stop Thinking About It was about a marketing campaign that went well. Maybe. The accountant in me knew better. When you find one number that doesn't add up, you don't rationalize it. You investigate. But the wife in me, the woman who'd built 12 years on trust, the girl who watched her parents' marriage collapse and swore she'd never let hers do the same, that woman wanted to believe the maybe. Needed to believe it. So I did what I'd been trained never to do in my professional life. I ignored the discrepancy. I filed it away under probably nothing and closed the book. But the book wouldn't stay closed. 3 days later, Marcus came home from school and said something that sent ice water through my veins. He was 13, all legs and awkwardness, and those big brown eyes that saw everything.
Mom,
He said, dropping his backpack on the floor the way I'd asked him 1,000 times not to.
how come Dad smells different lately?
I looked up from my laptop. What do you mean, baby?
Like he used to smell like that cologne you bought him. The one in the blue bottle. But now he smells like flowers. Like perfume. Girl perfume.
I kept my face perfectly still. Years of sitting across from clients who were lying to my face had given me a poker face that could fool a polygraph. Probably just a new soap, I said. You know your father changes grooming products like he changes socks.
Marcus shrugged. I guess, but it's weird. He smells like Miss Baptiste.
The room went very quiet, the kind of quiet that has weight. You've met Miss Baptiste, I said carefully.
Yeah, she was at the office last week when Dad picked me up. She hugged me. That's how I know the smell.
She hugged my son. This woman who sent last night was perfect text to my husband, hugged my 13-year-old son in my husband's office. I closed my laptop gently, smiled at Marcus. Go wash up for dinner, baby. He left, and I sat there at the kitchen table in the house I'd helped pay for and the life I'd helped build, and felt the ground beneath me start to shift. That night, I lay in bed listening to Derek breathe. Deep, steady, untroubled. The sleep of a man with no guilt, or the sleep of a man who'd gotten very good at compartmentalizing it. I turned my head and looked at him in the dark. This man I'd given 12 years to. This man I'd left my career for. This man whose company I'd saved from bankruptcy with my own 2 hands while he got the standing ovation. Who are you, I thought? Who have you become? Or were you always this, and I just couldn't see it? I turned back to the ceiling. My grandmother's bracelet was on the nightstand where I always left it before bed. I could see it glinting in the thin light coming through the curtains. Strong women, Grandma Opal. You come from strong women. I closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep, not a single minute. And 3 days later, I did something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. Something that would crack open the floor beneath my entire world and send me falling into a darkness I never imagined existed. I picked up his phone. It was a Tuesday, 2:43 in the morning. I remember the exact time because the clock on the nightstand burned those numbers into my memory like a brand. Derek was sleeping on his stomach, left arm hanging off the edge of the bed mouth slightly open. His phone was on the charger screen down on his nightstand. He'd started sleeping with it face down about a month ago. Another small change I'd noticed, and filed under, probably nothing. I slipped out of bed. My feet touched the cold hardwood floor, and I stood there for a full 30 seconds, listening to his breathing, making sure it was deep enough. Then I crossed to his side, slowly. The way you move when you know one wrong step changes everything. I picked up his phone, pressed his thumb gently against the sensor while he slept. The screen lit up and my heart slammed so hard against my ribs, I was sure the sound would wake him. It didn't. I took the phone to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bathtub, and opened his messages. The contact was saved as SB Consulting, but there was nothing professional about what I found. Hundreds of messages, going back 8 months. While I was cooking his dinners and managing his payroll and helping Marcus with his homework and lying next to him every single night, my husband had been living a parallel life with Simone Baptiste. The messages started flirtatious, inside jokes, compliments, the kind of testing the water texts that people send when they know they're crossing a line but haven't committed to it yet. Then they escalated. Intimate photos, plans, dates at restaurants I'd never heard of in towns 30 miles away where nobody would recognize them. But one thread made my blood stop moving.
When are you going to leave her?
Baby, I've been ready, but we need to get the finances sorted first. I'm not walking away empty-handed.
Don't worry, I've got a plan. By this time next year, you and me will be sitting in that house and she'll be the one starting over.
Promise.
I promise. She doesn't suspect a thing. She's too busy playing accountant to notice her own husband checking out.
Playing accountant. I read that line 4 times. Playing accountant. Like the career I'd built, the skills that saved his company, the expertise that kept his books clean and his taxes filed and his contracts airtight, all of that was me playing. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every photo, every plan they'd made. I sent them to a secure email address I'd created years ago for sensitive work files. Then I deleted the sent confirmations, cleared the screenshot folder, wiped the recent apps, and placed the phone back on his nightstand exactly as it was. Screen down, charging cable tucked under the base. He never moved. I went back to the bathroom, sat on the floor, and pressed a towel against my mouth to muffle the sound. I didn't cry the way you see in movies. No dramatic sobs, no sliding down the wall. I cried the way a woman cries when the thing she feared most in the world has just been confirmed, silently. From a place so deep the tears felt like they were coming from my bones. 8 months, 240-some days of lies, of looking me in the eye over breakfast, of kissing Marcus goodnight, of sleeping in our bed in our house on sheets I washed every Sunday. 8 months of performing a marriage that was already dead in his mind. The next morning I made breakfast, eggs, turkey, bacon, toast. Marcus's lunch was packed. Coffee was ready at 6:15 when Derek came downstairs in his navy polo. He kissed me on the forehead the same way my daddy kissed me the night he left and said,
"Morning, babe. You sleep okay?"
I smiled, like a rock. He poured his coffee, grabbed his keys, and walked out the door whistling, like a man without a single burden in the world. I waited until I heard his truck pull out of the driveway. Then I called Nadia.
She answered on the second ring. Camille, it's 6:30 in the morning. Somebody better be dead or dying.
Not dead, I said, but my marriage is. Nadia was at my door in 45 minutes. She sat at my kitchen table, read every screenshot on my phone, and didn't say a word for a full 3 minutes.
8 months.
She finally said, 8 months.
And this Simone woman, she's not just sleeping with him. She's strategizing with him. She's planning your financial destruction.
That's what it looks like.
Nadia, set the phone down. Camille, listen to me. Don't confront him, not yet. I know every cell in your body wants to walk into that office and throw this in his face. But if you do that, he'll destroy evidence. He'll move money. He'll get ahead of you. Right now, you have the advantage. He doesn't know you know. That's the most powerful position you can be in.
She was right. But knowing she was right and feeling okay about it were two completely different things. For 3 days, I walked through my own life like a ghost haunting a house she used to live in. I made dinners I couldn't taste. I helped Marcus with math homework while my own calculations were running in the background. I lay next to Derek every night, feeling his body heat, hearing his breathing, knowing that every exhale was a lie. On the 4th day, a Thursday evening, I tried a different approach. I told Derek I'd heard great things about Simone's marketing work and asked if I could sit in on their next strategy meeting. I kept my voice light, casual, interested wife supporting husband's business. Derek's face changed so fast it was like watching a mask rip. Not anger, not exactly. Something closer to panic, quickly covered by irritation.
"Why would you need to be in that meeting, Camille?"
I manage the finances. If we're spending on marketing, I should understand the strategy. He set his fork down, looked at me across the table with an expression I'd never seen directed at me before. Cold, dismissive, like I was an employee overstepping her role.
"You're just a number cruncher, Camille. You don't build anything. You just count what other people create."
He picked up his fork again, stabbed a piece of chicken.
"Simone and I have the creative vision handled. You just keep doing what you do. The books."
You just count what other people create. The words landed on me like a physical blow, like someone had pressed a palm flat against my chest and shoved. 12 years. 12 years of building his company, saving his company, running every system that kept his world turning. And I was just a number cruncher. Marcus was at the table. He'd stopped eating. His eyes were moving between us like he was watching a tennis match he didn't understand.
Can I be excused?
He said quietly. Of course, baby, I said. My voice was steady. My hands under the table were shaking so hard I had to press them into my thighs to stop them. That night, after Marcus was in bed and Derek had retreated to his home office to do whatever Derek did behind closed doors at 10 at night, I sat alone in the kitchen and made a decision. I was going to stop looking at his phone. I was going to look at something I understood far better than text messages and promises. I was going to look at the money, because Aunt Phyllis was right, and Patricia Chen at KPMG was right, and Nadia was right. And every instinct I'd been trained to trust in my professional life but had ignored in my personal one was right. Numbers don't lie, people do. And I was about to find out exactly how much my husband had been lying about. What I discovered 3 days later, buried in the company's own financial system in files Derek thought were hidden behind a password only he knew, made the affair look like a paper cut next to a bullet wound. The password Derek thought was unbreakable took me 11 minutes to crack. 11 minutes. He'd used a combination of his mother's birthday and his high school football jersey number. The man was committing financial crimes and protecting them with a password a teenager could guess. If the situation weren't so devastating, it would have been almost funny. What I found behind that password was not funny at all. 2 sets of books, 2 complete parallel financial systems for Holloway Premier Construction. The first set was the one I managed. Clean, organized. The books I'd built and maintained for 10 years, the ones we filed taxes, with the ones the bank saw when we applied for credit. The real books. The second set was Derek's, hidden in a folder labeled Personal Projects, and it told a completely different story. Over the past 3 years, Derek had filed 14 insurance claims on company construction projects, damage from storms, equipment theft, structural failures requiring emergency repairs. Every claim was documented with photographs, contractor invoices, and itemized repair costs. Every single one was fake. The storms were real. The damage was exaggerated by 300 to 500%. The contractors who submitted invoices for repair work were shell companies. 2 of them were registered in Delaware under names I didn't recognize. The third was registered in South Carolina under the name Baptiste Brand Solutions, Simone's company. Simone wasn't just Derek's mistress. She was his business partner in fraud. I sat in my home office at 1 a.m, the glow of my laptop screen the only light in the room, and traced every dollar. It's what I was trained to do. It's what I spent 4 years doing at KPMG for clients who paid $400 an hour for my expertise. And now I was doing it for free in my own house, on my own husband. The total amount of fraudulent insurance claims over 3 years came to approximately $1,800,000. The money flowed from the insurance company into Holloway Construction's accounts, then out through fake vendor payments to the shell companies, then into personal accounts held by Simone and a joint account I'd never seen before. An account with both Derek's and Simone's names on it. A joint account. Like they were already married. Like I was already erased. $1,800,000 exposed to federal charges, insurance fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, each count carrying up to 20 years. And all of it was running through the company that still had my name on the incorporation documents as co-owner and financial officer. That last realization hit me like a truck doing 70 on Interstate 77. If this went sideways, if investigators came knocking, my name was on those books. My signature was on tax filings that sat alongside fraudulent records. I could be implicated. I could be charged. I could lose everything, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because my husband had used the company I built as a vehicle for his crimes. My hands went cold. Not figuratively. Literally cold. Like the blood had decided to stop visiting my fingers. The next morning, Derek announced over breakfast that he'd hired Simone as the company's new chief marketing officer. Full salary, benefits, company card.
She's going to take us to the next level.
He said, pouring orange juice like it was champagne.
We're rebranding. New logo, new website, new everything.
I said nothing. I chewed my toast and calculated the odds that Simone's new salary was being paid from fraudulent insurance payouts. The odds were excellent. That same week, Derek changed the company's banking passwords, all of them, without telling me.
Security protocol,
He said when I asked.
Our IT consultant recommended it. I'll get you the new credentials when he's done setting up the firewalls.
He never got me the new credentials. Then he changed the passwords to the accounting software. Then he removed my access to the company email server. Piece by piece, Derek was cutting me out of the business I'd built. Not because he didn't need me anymore, because he needed me gone before I could see what he was doing. Around this time, Vanessa started visiting more frequently. She'd come every weekend, always arriving unannounced, always with opinions. She'd sit at my kitchen table and talk about Derek like I wasn't in the room.
Derek seems so much happier lately.
She'd say, stirring her tea.
He has this energy about him, this lightness. I wonder what's changed.
She knew. I'm sure of it now. Vanessa knew about Simone and she approved. Because Simone was younger, more glamorous, more the kind of woman Vanessa had always wanted for her son. One Sunday afternoon, Vanessa was at the house when I came back from brunch with Nadia. Derek and Vanessa were in the living room and I heard my name as I opened the front door. I stopped in the hallway, listened.
She's holding you back, Derek.
Vanessa was saying.
She always has. A woman like Simone understands ambition. Camille just understands spreadsheets.
Derek laughed. Actually laughed. And then he said the words that I hear in my sleep sometimes, even now.
Without me, she'd still be in some cubicle doing other people's taxes. I gave her a life mama, and look what she did with it. Nothing.
Nothing. 10 years of 18-hour days. 10 years of saving his company, managing his money, raising his son, building every system that kept his world running. Nothing.
Well, soon enough, she won't be your problem anymore. Simone is a much better fit. She actually takes care of herself.
I stood in that hallway with my keys in my hand and my grocery bag cutting into my wrist and felt something inside me go very, very still. Not broken still. The kind of still that comes right before a storm cracks the sky open. 2 days later, Derek invited Simone to dinner. At our house, at the table where I fed our family every night. He said it was a business dinner to celebrate the rebrand. He told me to make something nice. I cooked. Grilled salmon, roasted asparagus, wild rice. I set 3 places at the table and served dinner to my husband and his mistress in the home I'd helped pay for with my wedding china under the chandelier I'd picked out when Marcus was 3. Simone smiled at me all evening, complimented the food, called me girl like we were friends. She was 30 years old, beautiful in a way that was specifically designed to make women my age feel invisible. Perfect edges, perfect nails, designer blouse that cost more than my weekly groceries.
Derek watched me serve them, and when I sat down, he looked at Simone and said, "See, Camille takes great care of the house."
He turned to me.
"Babe, can you grab more wine?"
I was the waitress at my own table, the hired help in my own home, serving the woman who was sleeping with my husband and laundering his stolen money. I got the wine, poured it, smiled. And that night, after Simone left and Derek went to bed, I called Nadia from the bathroom floor. He had her in my house, Nadia, at my table, eating off my plates.
I know, Camille.
He's cutting me out of the company. He changed every password. He removed my access.
I know.
And Nadia, there's more. The books. There are 2 sets. He's been filing fake insurance claims. It's fraud, federal fraud. And my name is on the company. The line went quiet for 5 seconds. When Nadia spoke again, her voice had changed. The friend was gone. The lawyer was in.
How much are we talking?
Close to $1.8 million.
Camille, listen to me very carefully. Do not touch anything else in that system. Do not confront him. Do not tell anyone else. I need to make a phone call.
To who?
Someone who can help. Someone who's been waiting for exactly this kind of information.
She wouldn't say more that night, but 48 hours later, Derek filed for divorce. He came home on a Friday evening, sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd served his mistress dinner, and said it like he was placing an order at a drive-thru.
"I want a divorce. I want the house, the cars, the business, everything."
He paused, then added,
"You can keep Marcus."
"You can keep Marcus." Like our 13-year-old son was a piece of furniture that didn't fit the new decor. Like the boy I carried for 9 months and raised for 13 years was an inconvenience being generously returned. I looked at Derek across that table. The man I'd loved. The man I'd built a life with. The man who was stealing millions and sleeping with his accomplice and sitting in my kitchen telling me I could keep my own child like he was doing me a favor. And I said the only thing I could say. Okay. The week after Derek filed for divorce was the week I learned what it feels like to be erased from your own life while you're still breathing. He moved fast, faster than I expected. By Monday, he had a lawyer, Harold Weston, one of the most expensive family attorneys in Charlotte, the kind of man who wore cufflinks that cost more than most people's car payments and who'd built his reputation on helping wealthy men keep their wealth in divorces. Derek must have been planning this for months, squirreling away money for retainer fees while I was packing Marcus's lunch. By Wednesday, Derek had moved me to the guest room. Not asked, moved. I came home from picking Marcus up at school to find my clothes and garbage bags on the guest room bed. Not boxes, not suitcases, garbage bags. Like I was something being discarded. My side of the master closet was already empty. In its place, hanging neatly on my hangers, were 3 new dresses I'd never seen before. Simone's size. Not mine. By Friday, Vanessa arrived to help me transition. That was the word she used, transition. Like I was a season ending, not a woman being thrown away. She went through the house room by room with a notepad marking which items were marital assets Derek would be retaining. The furniture I'd chosen, the art I'd hung, the kitchen appliances I'd researched and purchased. All of it. Derek's property now. Then she opened my jewelry box. She sorted through it piece by piece with her manicured fingers, holding each item up to the light like an appraiser at an auction house. The pearl earrings Derek gave me for our 5th anniversary set aside. The diamond pendant from our 10th set aside. The gold chain Nadia gave me for my 30th birthday, she paused on that one before putting it back. Not valuable enough to bother with, apparently. Then she reached for my grandmother's bracelet. My whole body went rigid. That bracelet was not Derek's. It was not a marital asset. It was mine from before the marriage, given to me by Aunt Phyllis, passed down from Grandma Opal, the only piece of my family history I carried with me every single day. That's not his, I said. My voice came out flat, hard. The voice of a woman who has one line left and someone just stepped on it.
Vanessa didn't look up. Anything in the marital home is subject to division, Camille. Derek's attorney was very clear about that.
That bracelet belonged to my grandmother. It was given to me before the marriage. It has nothing to do with Derek.
Vanessa finally looked at me, and she smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The kind of smile that says, I've been waiting 12 years to do this. I'll let Derek decide,
she said.
And she put the bracelet in her purse.
I stood there and watched my grandmother's bracelet disappear into Vanessa Holloway's designer handbag, and something inside my chest cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like a foundation that's been bearing too much weight for too long. 3 days later, I saw it. On Simone's Instagram. A selfie in Derek's office, her left wrist turned slightly toward the camera, wearing my grandmother's gold bracelet. The bracelet Grandma Opal wore every day of her life. The bracelet Aunt Phyllis clasped on my wrist the day I graduated college. The bracelet I wore to my wedding. On the wrist of the woman who was sleeping in my bed, spending my husband's stolen money and smiling into a camera like she'd earned it. I called Aunt Phyllis that night. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Auntie, they took Grandma's bracelet. Simone is wearing it. She posted it online like it's hers. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. When Aunt Phyllis spoke, her voice was low and steady and terrifying in its calmness.
Camille Renée Lawson? You listen to me. That bracelet will come home. Your grandmother's spirit doesn't rest on the wrist of a thief. But right now, you need to be smart, not angry. Smart. Anger is a fire that burns the person holding the match. Strategy is a fire that burns the one who deserves it.
I held on to those words like a lifeline. The first mediation session was held the following Tuesday at Harold Weston's office in South Park. The mediator was a man named Gerald Pratt, late 50s gray at the temples, the kind of man who called women sweetheart in professional settings and thought it was charming. I couldn't afford an attorney. Derek had cut off my access to every joint account. My personal savings had been drained, I discovered 3 months before the divorce filing. Derek had forged my signature on a withdrawal form, taken $42,000 from an account in my name, and moved it somewhere I couldn't trace. I had $800 in a checking account Aunt Phyllis had helped me open years ago. That was it. So I sat at that table alone. No lawyer, no advocate, no one. Derek sat across from me with Harold Weston on his right and that look on his face. Relaxed, entertained almost, like watching me struggle was a spectator sport.
Harold opened a folder and slid a document across the table. My client is offering a generous settlement. Mrs. Lawson receives $50,000 in cash and relinquishes all claims to the marital home, both vehicles, and the business, including all associated assets and accounts.
$50,000 for 12 years, for saving his company from bankruptcy, for raising his son, for building every financial system he now used to commit federal crimes. I looked at the document. My throat was so tight I could feel my pulse in it. 50,000, I said.
Derek leaned back in his chair. That's more than fair, Camille. Most women in your position would get less.
Women in my position, like I was a category, a demographic, a line item in his budget. The mediator nodded sympathetically. It is a substantial offer, Mrs. Lawson. Given that the business and property are primarily in your husband's name, the court might not award significantly more. Primarily in his name, because Derek had spent 12 years making sure of that. Every deed, every title, every registration, all Holloway. I was the engine, and he'd made sure my name wasn't even on the hood.
Derek leaned forward, looked at me with those brown eyes that used to make me feel safe. No judge in the city is going to side with a woman who can't even keep her husband happy.
He said it quietly, almost gently, like he was giving me advice, like he was doing me a favor by lowering my expectations. Harold didn't flinch. The mediator looked at his notepad. Nobody in that room reacted. 3 men and 1 woman, and the woman was the only one who felt the blade. I said I needed time to review the offer. The mediator nodded. Derek shrugged. Harold checked his watch. I walked out of that office building into the October air and sat in my car for 20 minutes without starting the engine. My hands were on the steering wheel, my forehead was on my hands, and I cried. Not the silent bathroom floor crying from before, full body shaking sobs that fogged the windows and left my face swollen and raw. $50,000 and a garbage bag of clothes and my grandmother's bracelet on another woman's wrist. That was what 12 years of love and labor and loyalty was worth. That night, Nadia called.
Camille, I need you to come to my office tomorrow. There's someone I need you to meet.
Who?
His name is Terrence Rhodes. He's a special agent with the FBI's Charlotte Field Office. He's been investigating Holloway construction for the past 8 months.
I stopped breathing for 3 full seconds.
Camille, are you there?
The FBI has been investigating Derek.
Insurance fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. They've been building a case, but they're missing the inside financial picture. The detailed forensic analysis. Camille, they need exactly what you have.
I sat on the edge of my bed in the guest room of a house I was being thrown out of wearing clothes from a garbage bag with no money, no lawyer, and no power. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than pain. I felt a door opening. What time? I said.
9 a.m, and Camille.
Yeah.
Bring everything.
I didn't sleep that night either, but for the first time, it wasn't because of grief. It was because of math. My mind was running calculations, probabilities, scenarios, risk assessments. The forensic accountant who'd been sleeping for 12 years was waking up, and she had a lot of numbers to catch up on. Agent Terrence Rhodes was not what I expected. I'd imagined a man in a dark suit with sunglasses and an earpiece, the kind you see in movies. Instead, he was 52 years old, medium build, reading glasses, a quiet voice and a handshake that was firm but not aggressive. He looked more like a high school principal than an FBI agent. But his eyes were the giveaway. They were the eyes of a man who had spent decades watching people lie and had developed a near-perfect ability to see through every single one. We met in Nadia's office in a converted Victorian house on East Boulevard. The conference room smelled like old wood and fresh coffee. Nadia sat on my right. Agent Rhodes sat across from me with a younger agent, a woman named Torres, who took notes and said almost nothing.
Mrs. Lawson?
Agent Rhodes said, opening a manila folder.
I'm going to be direct with you because I respect your time and your intelligence. We've been investigating Holloway Premier Construction for 10 months. We have evidence of fraudulent insurance claims totaling approximately $1.4 million. What we believe the actual number is closer to 1.8 million, but we haven't been able to verify the complete picture because we lack access to the internal financial records.
He looked at me over his reading glasses.
Your friend Ms. Okafor tells me you might be able to help with that.
I pulled a flash drive from my purse and set it on the table. 2 complete sets of books, 3 years of parallel financial records, 14 fraudulent insurance claims, 3 shell companies, 1 registered to Simone Baptiste, wire transfers, account numbers, deposit records, and a timeline that matches every claim to a corresponding fake vendor payment. Agent Rhodes picked up the flash drive, looked at it, looked at me. A small smile crossed his face, the kind that appears when a man who's been searching for a puzzle piece realizes someone just handed him the entire box.
You put this together yourself.
I'm a certified forensic accountant and a certified fraud examiner. This is what I did before I made the mistake of doing it for free. Agent Rhodes spent the next 2 hours reviewing the files on Nadia's computer. He asked questions that were precise, specific, and told me he already knew more about Derek's operation than I'd expected. He knew about the shell companies. He knew about the exaggerated damage claims. What he didn't know, what he couldn't access from the outside, was the internal money trail. The exact path each dollar took from insurance payout to fraudulent vendor to personal account. That was the skeleton key, and I had it. At the end of the meeting, Agent Rhodes closed the folder and placed both hands flat on the table.
Mrs. Lawson, here's where we are. We have enough to indict your husband on multiple federal charges, but there's a complication. You are currently listed as co-owner and financial officer of Holloway Construction. If we move now, his defense attorney will argue that you were complicit, that you knew about the fraud and participated in it. Your name is on incorporation documents, on tax filings, on bank signature cards.
My stomach folded in on itself. I had nothing to do with this. The second set of books was hidden from me. I never had access.
I believe you, but a jury might not without clear separation between you and the company's criminal activity.
Nadia leaned forward, which is why the divorce is critical.
Agent Rhodes nodded. If your husband assumes sole ownership of all company assets and operations in the divorce, he becomes the sole responsible party. Your name comes off everything. The incorporation, the accounts, the liability. He can't point at you anymore because you won't be there to point at.
The room went quiet. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. You need me to let him take everything, I said.
I need him to want to take everything.
Agent Rhodes corrected.
And from what I understand, that shouldn't be difficult.
He was right. Derek wanted it all. He'd said it himself. The house, the cars, the business, everything. He thought he was punishing me. He thought he was winning. He was building his own cage. And he was doing it with enthusiasm. What do I get? I asked, not out of greed, out of survival. I had $800, no home, no job, and a son who needed me.
Full immunity from prosecution. Your cooperation as a witness is documented and protected. Any assets determined to be your separate property, such as items predating the marriage, will be excluded. And we will coordinate with your divorce attorney to ensure the timing works.
Nadia added, I've already reached out to a family law attorney named Diane Prescott. She's agreed to take your case pro bono through a domestic violence legal aid fund. She's good, Camille. Really good.
Wait, I said. Domestic violence.
Financial abuse is domestic violence under North Carolina law. Derek forged your signature to drain your savings. He cut off your access to marital funds. He systematically isolated you from financial resources. That qualifies.
I sat with that for a moment. Financial abuse. I'd spent 12 years being financially abused and hadn't even had a name for it. I just called it marriage.
Agent Rhodes stood and extended his hand. Mrs. Lawson, I've been doing this for 26 years. I've worked with cooperating witnesses who were scared, angry, confused, and everything in between. But I've never worked with one who walked in with a forensic analysis this thorough. You're not just helping us build a case. You've practically built it for us.
I shook his hand. Just make sure he doesn't get away with it.
He won't, but I need you to do something very difficult between now and the final divorce hearing.
What's that?
Lose. Convincingly, he needs to believe he's winning every single day until the moment he signs those papers. If he gets suspicious, if he hires a forensic accountant of his own, if he delays the divorce for any reason, he could discover the investigation and destroy evidence. We need him confident. We need him greedy. We need him careless.
I thought about that. Playing the role of the defeated woman, letting Derek insult me, dismiss me, erase me, all while knowing what was coming. It would mean sitting across from him in mediation and saying nothing. It would mean watching Simone wear my grandmother's bracelet and smiling. It would mean letting Marcus think his mother was losing. That last part was the hardest, because 3 nights earlier, Marcus had called me crying.
Mom.
His voice was small, shaking.
Dad says I have to call her Miss Simone. She's living here now. She changed my room. She took down my posters and put up her yoga stuff. And Dad said I'm being disrespectful when I said I didn't want her here.
I gripped the phone so tight the case cracked.
Dad told me...
Marcus paused. I could hear him trying not to cry.
He told me you're going through some issues. That you're not thinking clearly. He said that's why you moved out.
Derek was gaslighting our son, telling a 13-year-old boy that his mother left because she was unstable, rewriting the story so that Marcus would bond with Simone and forget who really held him during thunderstorms and sat through every single homework assignment and school play and basketball game. Something inside me shifted that night. Not broke, not cracked. Shifted. Like tectonic plates finding a new position, a permanent one. I called Agent Rhodes the next morning. I'll do it, I said. Every day until he signs. I'll lose, I'll cry, I'll beg, I'll give him exactly what he wants, and then I'll watch him choke on it. For 2 months, I put on the performance of a lifetime. I showed up to mediation sessions looking tired, beaten, small. I let Harold Weston talk to me like I was a child. I let the mediator pat my hand and suggest I consider being realistic about my options. I let Derek sit across from me with that smile and that suit and that confidence that radiated off him like cologne. I nodded when they said $50,000 was generous.
I didn't flinch when Vanessa called to tell me she'd given Simone my grandmother's recipe box. Simone loves to cook,
she said sweetly.
And since you won't be needing it anymore...
I smiled when Derek told Marcus that things were going to be better now, buddy. You'll see. Simone makes Dad really happy. Every insult, every humiliation, every stolen piece of my life. I filed it all away in the same place I filed fraudulent balance sheets. Evidence. All of it was evidence. And the clock was ticking toward the day Derek Holloway would sign his name for the last time as a free man. Diane Prescott, my pro bono attorney, was a small woman with short silver locks and a voice that could fill a courtroom without ever rising above conversational volume. She'd practiced family law in Charlotte for 22 years and had a reputation for dismantling arrogant husbands with the precision of a watchmaker, taking apart a cheap clock. When she reviewed the divorce agreement Nadia and Agent Rhodes had helped structure, she smiled the way a chess player smiles 3 moves before checkmate. "This is beautiful," she said, turning pages. "He's going to sign for every asset, and every asset is a crime scene." The agreement was straightforward on the surface. Camille Renée Lawson relinquishes all claims to the marital home, both vehicles and Holloway Premier Construction, including all associated accounts, contracts, licenses, and liabilities. In exchange, she receives a cash settlement of $50,000. That word, liabilities. It sat in paragraph 6, subsection C, buried between asset descriptions and transfer clauses. Derek's lawyer would see it. Any competent attorney would see it. But it wouldn't raise alarms because every asset transfer agreement includes liability language. It's standard. Boilerplate. The kind of paragraph people skip because it looks like every other paragraph they've read in 100 other documents. Except this one meant that when Derek signed, he wasn't just claiming the house and the cars and the company. He was claiming sole legal responsibility for every fraudulent insurance claim, every wire transfer, every shell company payment, every dollar that had flowed through Holloway Construction's books for the past 3 years. My name would come off everything. His name would be the only one left. 2 weeks before the final hearing, Harold Weston called Diane with concerns.
My client is assuming significant assets,
Harold said carefully.
I'd like to request a full financial audit before we finalize.
Diane kept her voice neutral. Of course, we're happy to provide whatever documentation your client needs. But when Harold brought this to Derek, my husband shut it down before Harold could finish his sentence.
No audits, no delays. I built that company. I know exactly what it's worth.
Harold pushed back. Derek, I strongly recommend we verify the asset values. This is standard due diligence.
Simone wants this done. I want this done. No more delays. Just get me the papers.
Harold had been practicing law for over 25 years. He wrote a formal letter to Derek documenting his recommendation for an audit and Derek's refusal. Lawyers call that a cover your assets letter. Harold could see the iceberg. His client was steering straight for it with the engine at full throttle. During those final 2 weeks, Derek's arrogance reached its peak. He was untouchable in his own mind. He'd won the house, the company, the cars, the woman. He'd reduced his wife of 12 years to a $50,000 settlement and a garbage bag of clothes. Victory was so complete in his mind that he decided to celebrate early. He threw a dinner party at my house with my china. Invited 8 couples, people who used to be our friends, our mutual circle. People who'd eaten at my table attended Marcus's birthday parties, hugged me at church on Sundays. Marcus told me about it afterward. His voice was flat, tired, the voice of a 13-year-old who'd seen too much.
Dad made a toast, Mom. He stood up with champagne and said, to new beginnings, and to finally being free from dead weight.
Marcus paused.
Everybody laughed. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, the Hendersons, everybody.
Dead weight. 12 years of running his finances, 12 years of raising his son, 12 years of holding his company together with my bare hands. Dead weight.
And then he introduced Simone as his partner.
Marcus continued.
She was wearing your bracelet, Mom. Grandma's bracelet. She was showing it off to Mrs. Henderson like it was new.
I closed my eyes, pressed the phone against my forehead, breathed.
Mom, are you okay?
I'm okay, baby. I need you to trust me for just a little bit longer. Can you do that?
I trust you, Mom. I just want to come home.
Soon, Marcus. Very soon. 2 days before the hearing, Derek called me directly. The first time in weeks he'd spoken to me without lawyers present.
Camille.
His voice was smooth, almost friendly.
I just want you to know no hard feelings. This is business. You'll land on your feet. You always do.
I said nothing.
And listen, the $50,000 is fair. Take it, start fresh. Maybe go back to one of those accounting firms. You were always good at that. Good at working for other people.
Still nothing.
He laughed softly. Come on, Camille, don't be like that. It's not personal.
I know, Derek. My voice was steady, warm even. I understand.
Good. So we're okay.
We're fine.
Great. See you Thursday then. Courthouse at 9.
I'll be there. I hung up, set the phone down on Aunt Phyllis's kitchen table. She was standing at the stove stirring a pot of collard greens, watching me with those eyes that had seen 60 years of men making promises they never intended to keep.
Well?
She said. Thursday, 9 o'clock.
And he doesn't suspect a thing.
He thinks I'm broken, Auntie. He thinks I've given up.
Aunt Phyllis turned back to her pot, stirred slowly. Your grandmother had a saying, the lion doesn't tell the gazelle what time dinner is. She looked over her shoulder. You go get your bracelet back, baby, and everything else that man took from you.
That night, Agent Rhodes sent me a single text message.
Thursday. We'll be there. The moment he signs, we move.
I read it once, deleted it, lay down on the pull-out couch in Aunt Phyllis's living room and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, Derek Holloway would walk into that courtroom believing he was about to take everything from me. He'd sign every paper claim, every asset, shake his lawyer's hand, and smile at his mother in the gallery. He'd think it was the best day of his life. He had no idea it would be his last day of freedom, and I had no intention of warning him. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, Courtroom 4B, Mecklenburg County Courthouse. I remember everything about that morning. The way the November sunlight came through the tall windows and made rectangles on the wooden floor, the smell of floor polish and old paper, the quiet shuffle of lawyers organizing documents, the hum of the fluorescent lights above the judge's bench. Derek arrived first. Of course he did. Charcoal Tom Ford suit the same one I'd helped him pick out 3 years ago for a client dinner. Gold watch catching the light every time he moved his wrist. Hair freshly cut, shoes polished. He looked like a man arriving at his own coronation. Simone was in the hallway. Not allowed inside, but she wanted to be close. I caught a glimpse of her through the door as I walked in. Perfect makeup. Designer bag on her lap. My grandmother's bracelet on her wrist. She was scrolling through her phone like she was waiting for a table at brunch. Vanessa sat in the gallery. Front row. She dressed for the occasion. Cream blazer, pearl earrings, legs crossed at the ankle. She looked at me when I entered and gave me a small, pitying smile, the kind you give a dog that's about to be put down. I wore a simple navy dress, no jewelry, hair pulled back, flat shoes. I looked tired, defeated, like a woman who had run out of fight and options simultaneously. Perfect. Judge Evelyn Harper entered. Everyone rose. She reviewed the file, looked up. Lawson versus Holloway. Final dissolution hearing. I understand the parties have reached an agreement.
Harold Weston stood. Yes, Your Honor. My client, Derek Holloway, is assuming all marital assets, including the family residence, both vehicles, and Holloway Premier Construction, with all associated accounts and operations. In exchange, Mrs. Lawson receives a cash settlement of $50,000.
Diane rose beside me. That is correct, Your Honor. My client agrees to relinquish all claims to these assets and accepts the proposed terms. Judge Harper's eyes moved to me, studied my face. Mrs. Lawson, I need to confirm that you understand what you're agreeing to. You're giving up substantial property, the family home, a business you helped build. Are you certain? I kept my voice soft, slightly unsteady. Yes, Your Honor, I just want this to be over. Derek's lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Harold presented the documents. Derek picked up the pen. He didn't rush. He savored it, signed each page slowly, deliberately, like a man writing his name into history. The house, sign, the vehicles, sign, the business, all accounts, all contracts, all licenses, all liabilities. Sign, sign, sign. When he finished, he set the pen down and straightened his tie, turned to me, and there it was, that smile, full, wide, victorious.
You know what your problem is, Camille?
He said quietly.
You actually believed you mattered. You were convenient. That's all you ever were.
Vanessa nodded from the gallery, approving, proud. Judge Harper stamped the final document. The dissolution is granted. Assets are transferred as agreed. Derek stood, shook Harold's hand, turned toward the gallery to share the moment with his mother. And that's when the door opened. 2 men in dark suits walked into the courtroom. One was Agent Terrence Rhodes. The other was a younger agent I hadn't seen before. Behind them, a third agent, a woman. They moved with the calm, unhurried precision of people who had done this many times. Agent Rhodes walked past the gallery, past Vanessa, whose smile froze mid-formation, past the bailiff, who stepped aside instinctively, straight to the front of the courtroom.
Derek Lamont Holloway.
Derek turned. The smile was still on his face. Residual.
You are under arrest for 14 counts of insurance fraud, 8 counts of wire fraud, and 6 counts of money laundering under federal statute Title 18.
The color drained from Derek's face so fast it looked like someone had pulled a plug beneath his skin. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His hands began to tremble. The pen rolled off the table and hit the floor. The sound echoed.
What?
Derek's voice cracked.
Camille, what did you...
I stood up, slowly, smoothed my dress, looked him directly in the eyes. I'm just a number cruncher, remember, Derek? I don't build anything. I just count what other people create. I paused. And your numbers don't add up. They never did. His knees buckled. He grabbed the edge of the table. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Harold Weston stepped backward, away from him. In the hallway, I heard a commotion. Simone.
Simone Baptiste, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering.
Derek, what's happening? You said we were safe. You promised.
Vanessa stood in the gallery, shaking.
This is outrageous. This is a setup. My son is a businessman, not a criminal. That woman did this. She did this.
Nobody listened. Agent Torres read Derek his rights while he stood there gripping the table like a man on a sinking ship.
Camille.
His voice was wet now, breaking.
Please, I'm sorry. I'll give everything back. We can fix this. Please.
I picked up my purse, looked at him one last time. You're not sorry, Derek. You're just sorry you got caught. I took one step toward the door, stopped, looked back over my shoulder. And you can keep everything you signed for. Every asset, every account, every liability. You're going to need something to think about for the next 15 years. I walked out of courtroom 4B into the November sunlight. The air hit my face and I inhaled so deep my lungs ached. Behind me, I could hear Derek's voice breaking into pieces as the agents guided his hands behind his back. I didn't look back, not once. 6 months later, on a Tuesday morning in May, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment in Noda with a cup of coffee and watched the sun come up over Charlotte. The air smelled like jasmine from the planter box Marcus had helped me fill the weekend before. It was warm, quiet, the kind of morning that feels like the world is giving you permission to start again. Derek was sentenced in federal court 3 weeks prior. 12 years. The judge called it one of the most systematic insurance fraud schemes she'd seen in her career. Derek stood at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed in front of him, and said nothing. The man who always had something to say, the man who filled every room with his voice and his confidence and his charm, stood there in silence, while a federal judge dismantled his life in precise, clinical sentences. Simone took a plea deal, cooperated fully, testified that Derek had recruited her specifically to set up the shell companies and manage the laundered funds. She received 4 years. Her testimony confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't just his lover. She was his partner from the beginning. Every kiss, every Instagram post, every time she wore my grandmother's bracelet and smiled into a camera, she knew exactly where the money was coming from. Vanessa's world collapsed in a different way. Investigators traced $68,000 in transfers from Derek's fraudulent accounts directly to her personal bank account. Monthly deposits she'd been receiving for 2 years. She claimed she didn't know where the money came from. Nobody believed her. She was charged with receiving proceeds of fraud, pled no contest, and received 18 months of probation and full restitution. She sold her house in Raleigh to cover the payments and moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a complex off Independence Boulevard. The woman who'd called me Charity was now living in a place smaller than the guest room she'd once banished me to. The assets Derek had signed for so eagerly were seized by federal order. The house on Wyndham Drive was sold at auction. The cars were repossessed. Holloway Premier Construction was dissolved. Its contracts voided, its licenses revoked. Everything Derek had grabbed with both hands turned to ash in his grip. And my grandmother's bracelet came home. Agent Torres personally returned it to me in a small evidence bag after the asset seizure was complete. I held it in my palm for a long time, feeling the weight of it. The same weight it had the day Aunt Phyllis clasped it on my wrist at graduation. The same weight it had on my wedding day. It had been on a journey it was never meant to take, but it came back, just like Aunt Phyllis said it would. I opened Lawson & Associates 2 months after the trial, a forensic accounting consultancy specializing in financial abuse cases in divorce. Nadia helped me with the legal framework. Diane Prescott referred the first 3 clients, women like me, women whose husbands had hidden money, drained accounts, forged signatures, built empires on their wives' labor, and then tried to walk away with everything. My first client was a teacher from Gastonia whose husband had embezzled her inheritance through a fake investment. I found every dollar in 11 days. She cried in my office when I showed her the report. I handed her a tissue and said, "Numbers don't lie. That's the good news and the bad news. Marcus moved back in with me the week after Derek's arrest. He walked into our apartment, looked around at the small living room and the secondhand furniture in the kitchen that was a quarter the size of the one on Wyndham Drive. He set his backpack down on the floor the way I'd asked him 1,000 times not to and said,
It's perfect, Mom.
That night he showed me something, a drawing he'd made in art class. 2 figures standing side by side on a hill looking out at a sunrise. Just 2. A mother and a son. No one else. I put it on the refrigerator. It's still there. Aunt Phyllis came down from Greensboro for the apartment warming. She walked through every room, touched every wall, opened every cabinet. Then she sat down at my kitchen table and said,
Your grandmother would be so proud of you, baby, not because you won, because you survived with your soul intact.
I see Nadia every Saturday for brunch. She's working on a pro bono initiative connecting domestic abuse survivors with forensic accountants. She asked me to be the lead consultant. I said yes before she finished the sentence. Last week, I stood in front of a mirror getting ready for a speaking engagement at the Charlotte Women's Business Alliance. Navy dress, hair pulled back, grandmother's bracelet on my left wrist, and for the first time in years, I recognized the woman looking back at me. My name is Camille Renée Lawson. I'm 37 years old. I'm a forensic accountant, a mother, a survivor, and a woman who will never again let anyone else hold the pen to my story. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fight back. It's wait. Wait until the truth is ready. Wait until the numbers line up. Wait until the evidence speaks louder than his lies ever could. Patience isn't weakness. Patience is power with a plan. And if you're out there right now living in someone else's version of your life, being told you're not enough, being told you don't matter, being told you're just convenient, hear me when I say this. You are not what he called you. You are what you choose to become. The morning air in Charlotte felt different that day. Lighter, cleaner, like the whole city had exhaled. And for the first time in 12 years, breathing didn't hurt anymore. This story is for every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough. Your value isn't determined by the people who couldn't see it. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join this family. Because we believe in justice, we believe in strength, and we believe that the truth always finds its way to the light.